Last week on the Al Nicoletti Show. Stephanie, welcome back.
Thank you, Al, for having me.
How have you learned the best on your end about who is the rightful people that you're looking for?
I know if they're born before 1950, that I can usually find them on a census record. If I know that maybe they have a spouse, they grew up and they got married and had kids, I like to know who the parents are, because always look for a census record if you can. Those are really, really helpful. And again, I feel like it's one of the pivotal points of data that you can have and on Ancestry to help build the tree out and know who you're looking at.
Are there any tips for people out there to master the art of finding hidden treasures, whether it's owners, heirs, or other opportunities?
A lot of people chase fast answers. I have to slow down and chase better answers, like chase the right answers. It takes time to learn that, like to really slow down and like follow your intuition and confirm the facts, right? Everyone that would have gotten to the Ancestry part would have disowned that, disregarded her and said, well, I don't know who this lady is. But because I was like, screw it, I'm gonna request this marriage certificate. It's $20. Gotta wait 3 weeks and I'm gonna see what's up, you know, like maybe she changed her name, maybe she has an alias. And so anyway, it brought me back to that information. We can always find great deals. I just want to, again, just encourage everyone to get out there, get some deals done, partner with people if you're afraid to do an element of the deal or any part of the deal, and just get your hands dirty. And I promise it's just so much fun.
Steph, thank you so much for coming on again.
Thank you, Al, for having me come on.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to part 2 of the season. It's been a long summer, so many different things happening. The market's been completely different than what it was back in March, and there's so much to talk about with different investors and big time people that are in this game every day. We've missed everybody. We're back for the rest of the season. So if you want more content like this, make sure you scan the QR code at the top of the screen. That's going to get you our link tree. You're going to find everything on the social media, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, you name it. Follow us there on iTunes and Spotify if you're on the road. And if you want more content on probates, partitions, quiet title, all the curative title stuff that I know a lot of people are into right now, follow us on YouTube. We're going to have different webinars and seminars coming up, so you don't want to miss it. And I'm excited to be back. I love being in the studio. And for those that saw the old studio, now we've redesigned the studio and we got this new sleek look to it. So we're super excited to be back. I love having the team with me. So shout out to my producer, Michael Williams, back at the table over here with the studio. And then Taylor Nasta, always doing all the promotions and everything. It's always exciting to have the team. And you always have to be grateful and recognize your team, because the team is everything, supporting you and everything about getting this together. So we love that here at the Al Nicoletti Show. Well, I got to tell you, I'm super excited for our guest today, Tiffany High. Everybody knows Tiffany High from Results Driven. I mean, if you're not on Facebook and you don't see her ad, I mean, as soon as you click her profile, you're going to get all her ads, because she is so smart when it comes to marketing and all the different strategies for marketing and how that you can do bigger deals in less time. We're going to dive in on strategies today. So I'm excited. We're back in the studio. So let's rock this thing. Hey, everybody. My name is Al Nicoletti. I'm an attorney here in Florida, and welcome to the Al Nicoletti Show, where I bring on real estate super investors, rising rock stars, movers and shakers, and leaders of clubs in their communities that educate, entertain, and inspire all things on Florida real estate. And always, we are going to bring the best in the game to you out there. No matter what state, no matter what industry, we want to help you take your business to the next level. On my show today, super excited to have the legend Tiffany High on the show. Back on for part 2 of the season. We had to bring the banger for this. And she is doing amazing things with her students, amazing things in the real estate community. She is all over the place, and you can find her all over on Facebook and all the ads. It's amazing what she's doing with her and Josh and the whole team. So we're super excited to dive in on what's hot in the market and how you can do a lot of deals in a short amount of time and some of the strategies behind it. So without further ado, let's welcome Tiffany to the show. Tiffany, hi. Welcome to the Alan
What's going
Colletti
on,
Show.
man? I need your energy today. You're like pumping me up right now.
Good. Let's go. I love it. I'm so excited to have you. I love being on your podcast, and shout out to your team at Results Driven. It was so great. You know, I got to kick it off for people that are in this market right now and what's kind of going on. As you probably can see, the market's definitely shifted a lot, Tiffany, in the last couple of months, in this last year. Your team and your students are doing deals like never before. How are you all keeping steady in this market that keeps pivoting and may even change next year? Like, what are some of the strategies you're implementing with your students?
Yeah, so we're wholesalers, flippers, we have rentals, all that. And I would say in today's market, my biggest piece of advice, personally, is I would focus on the median home price. So I would do that by like school district or zip code and not just a common area because, for example, in Columbus, the median home price is, I don't know it right now exactly, but let's just call it 289. And, one school district, the lowest price point might be 400 and another one might be 150, but the common metro area is, call it 289, 300. And so when you stay within the median home price and below, you give yourself a lot more exit strategies in case something were to fall off. So, and to be honest, we have actually two houses right now, way before the market shifted, that had ended up sitting a little bit too long. And we're like, you know what? I don't want to keep sitting on this. We refied it. It gave us another option and it's cash flowing. And so I just really recommend in a shifting market to be a lot stricter on your buy box. And you can even go down to the neighborhood, not just the zip code. And if you guys don't have the tools for that, there's a vendor out there that we use called DataFlick. And they have it's called a market map tool. And you put in your county and state, and it'll literally drive down by the zip code and the neighborhood. And so in a market like this, you just really want to be on top of the data because you don't want to get stuck with a house in an area that you're just not unsure if it's going to move. Especially if you're a flipper watching this, just because inventory is sitting on the market. And once we started adapting our strategy to that, we haven't had much of an issue moving rehabs, even with our inventory being 4 times as great as it was last year.
Interesting. And DataFlick, I think I've heard about that before. I think somebody's mentioned that. Maybe you've probably been the one to mention it. But I mean, these are useful tools for investors out there that haven't heard about it, or maybe they're using it and there's better ways to utilize it that could help them get more deals in a struggling market, because the interest rates have been staying steady, maybe down a little bit, but it's tough for a lot of people out there. And any deal that comes in is a valuable deal. And go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say one thing, you'll love this. This is a time where you get back to the fundamentals. And back when I first got started in real estate, the very first year when I was a one-man show, the only list that I pulled was foreclosures and probates. And that is still a winning strategy today. And so we are, even with as big as we are, we're hiring a door knocking team specifically to go out to probates and foreclosures. And we put a whole process to it, scorecard, tracking, everything. So we're pretty excited about it. One of our friends in the industry is doing the same. And last year, and guys, this is like a one-man show with one closer that is doing the strategy. He had a door knocking team last year of 3 people that did those 2 lists, and he netted $800,000 off of it.
Amazing. I love that. And those are the best stories. And we've had on so many different people that have done probate deals and all these messy deals and talked about the great success from it. Like, some of these messy probate deals can be your biggest deals you've ever had. It's just that some people don't know the strategies at the front end to be able to implement it so you can get the deal across the finish line. But we've had on guests like Jonathan Duong's talked about how he got 2 different lots and flipped them out both for $100,000, did a double close. And I mean, it was a great deal. So I love that you're talking about that, because those are the deals that are not going away. I've even seen it in my business. Maybe people haven't been able to find so many deals out there, but I see people that are picking up probates all the time, and that market hasn't died off, right? So definitely different strategies out there. And one thing before we dive in on that amplification formula, Tiffany, that you've talked about, One thing that you're big on, which I see on the Facebook ads a lot, is the different marketing. I think you've talked about like the 11 different types of marketing strategies. How important is that in this kind of market, and what should investors focus on right now with marketing?
Yep. So in our industry, we have what I call like newbie programs, right? We all got started there where we learn how to construct a deal. And what happens is when people get started in the industry, they learn from like a coach, a guru, an event, YouTube, whatever, of all these different strategies. And let's just call it cold calling or direct mail or something. And what we see across the industry is that people go to their bank account once they learn some level of the strategy and they're like, oh, I think I'm willing to spend 3 grand or 5 grand or whatever it is. They take that money, they like roll it in a ball, they throw it at the channel, and there's no rhyme or reason to like how much they put into it, what their expectations are. There's literally no data behind what they just did. Right. And so what happens is they have false expectations of what to get out of that dollar spent because no one's teaching them how to run a business. There is a big difference between constructing real estate deals and running a real estate business, right? Two totally different skill sets. And so when we're approaching marketing, there's inbound like TV, PPC, PPL, all that. There's outbound like cold calling, and then there's free marketing channels like the MLS, direct to agent, working with attorneys, all of that. And you should really have a mixture of all. I call that the winning strategy. But when you're getting ready to go spend the money, like we have a marketing ROI calculator, and it says, hey, if my goal hypothetically is 100,000 a month, and I land on average, one of 20 leads, and it'll put in the average for the industry if you don't already do that channel. It'll plug in a few different variables and it'll say, hey, if you want to make 100,000 a month off of this channel, you have a data driven answer that says you should expect to spend XYZ. You should expect this cost per lead and this ROI if you move forward with this. And that then gives you clarity and confidence around what to spend, why to spend it, and where to spend it. And when you don't operate that way, what happens is they throw money and then they don't convert, which is probably also a sales problem, but also they're like, I don't know why. And so they just shut down the channel because they think it's the marketing or they think it's the market or the leads or whatever, when it's really not. They're just like making these fly by night decisions versus operating like a legitimate business who uses data to drive their decisions. And so, guys, all of those marketing channels work: mail, TV, PPC. So it's just a matter of how are we conducting the channel. And then I would also say in today's environment, I'd be really careful with outbound marketing. There's a lot of rules and regulations now, and we see people all across the country getting sued for it. And there's like professional suers out there, right? That like learn from courses and ask for settlements for texting them and all this kind of stuff. And so I'm a big believer in going deep and not wide. So like there's too many people out there that are pulling like absentee list, throwing it in a dialer, hiring some cold callers, and then pissed off why they can't get deals. And we're like, well, just because they're on the absentee list doesn't mean they're motivated, right? Versus pulling either AI data, which the AI data is pulling in probates and evictions and foreclosures and all these distress lists where you can go super deep with a lot less money and get more deal flow.
Amazing. Yeah. And there's so many different things to unpack from just that. And one thing that I can really tell from you is you really got to track what's working with your strategies. You really need to monitor that on the daily, because if you're spending too much on one area and it's not producing, you got to pivot right away to something else. And you mentioned something that was really key, and you went right over it, but I want to come back to it, which is sales. I need the Tiffany High top 2 tips for sales for investors.
Okay. So, one, if you are a one-man show or partnership or whatever, I think that everyone got into real estate for 2 reasons: to make money and gain back their time, right? Why else would we get into real estate? Well, what happens to most people is they get into real estate, and the only benefit of being a one or two man show is you might be making money, but you're probably wearing every hat in the business: your acquisitions, dispo, everything. The only way that we actually get some level of our time back and predictability, like consistency in deal flow, is if somebody is sole focused in sales. I should say acquisitions, right? And so when we, number one is get a closer in the seat, because you'll never be consistent without someone only locking up deals. When you put that closer in the seat, don't set them up for failure. So what do I mean by that? When we bring someone in, we have a thorough 2-week onboarding. We've got daily sales training. We've got scorecards to track and diagnose problems and fix gaps fast. And we also have a like meeting rhythm in management process. And so if we're going to hire a closer, we need to put in infrastructure. And infrastructure is really the make or break of how that role is either going to blow with marketing dollars and waste opportunity, or bring you 100,000 a month. Like that's the make or break of getting that infrastructure in place. So one, get a closer in place, and then two, install infrastructure.
Gold right there. And I think right there alone, some people can get great value just by those two things and setting up their business a little bit better so they can have more success in this kind of market. Love it, Tiffany. And we got to talk about this. This is the big topic for the episode. I think a lot of people will love, which is Tiffany loves talking about the amplification formula she's talked about at different events. So Tiffany, talk to us about how you're able to do hundreds of deals but only spend a couple hours in the office a week. Like that right there is efficiency at its finest.
Yeah. So, when I first got started into real estate, like I said, I was just becoming a mom, and my mentor at that time said, "You can have your cake and eat it too." And I was like, "Well, how do I do that? Because I'm running around with my head cut off, chasing deals, going to houses, doing all these things." And he was like, "You can't ever grow something or gain your time back without people." And so we call this the amplification formula. How do we make more money, put less time in? And that's through people. So when we have people on the team, we've got to set them up for success. So in the amplification formula, it starts first with onboarding, right? We need to bring people onto the team. And so onboarding in our company equates to, for let's just say for an acquisition person, there's at minimum 2 weeks of videos, quizzes, assessments, hands-on training, where a lot of people in the industry, they've never onboarded an employee before. And so if we want this result up here and we're here, we have to do the things that deserve that result. And I call that learn, do, become. If you've never onboarded someone, or maybe you've never been a sales manager in your life, right? In order to properly bring on an acquisition person, we have to go get educated and learn how to first. We don't go hire them and expect them to get deals and then we go pay for education, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we first learn it, then we got to do what we learn, and then we got to become the person that deserves the result. And so a lot of people forget about the like I have to earn and be worthy of the result. And so we onboard person properly. Then after that, we have to do daily sales training. And I always say sales is a sport, right? And so, Michael Jordan didn't just practice once a week or when he felt like it. He practiced every day and he practiced the fundamentals. So when he was in the game, it was like second nature to just act versus think about it, right?
Right.
And so if you don't know how to conduct the proper daily training, we have to go get educated on how to do it. From there, we have to track through scorecards. And like 90% of people that come through our training, it's mind blowing, which is a failure on all the newbie programs, like to be direct. They're setting them up for failure. So there is a scorecard where it should follow against your sales process. In that scorecard, it should tell you what is happening in the sales process so that you can fix it fast and make sure we're monetizing every lead. And so a lot of people aren't tracking these metrics. Um, there's a 3 steps to tracking. First, we track, and so people might think, "Oh, I got this scorecard or this KPI tracker from this program, and I'm tracking, so I'm doing my job." That's just the first step. Then the second step is we have to identify in the KPIs what's actually wrong, and then we have to go fix the problem. And those are different skill sets that a lot of people don't spend the time getting educated on.
Mm.
And so what happens is when we do finally bring on a team to amplify our business so that we're not wearing the hat anymore, we blame the market, we blame the leads, we blame all these external factors, when in reality, we're just not equipping our team with the right training and tools to succeed with the marketing spend that you have, right? So we
Right.
have onboarding, training, tracking. Now, what does Michael Jordan do after every game? He watches film, right? And so why do we think that we'll get better if we don't watch film, especially if we have a team? And if you're a one-man show, 100% you should be doing this as well. If you can't have the discipline to do it with yourself, you definitely won't have the discipline to do it when you bring someone on. And ultimately, I'll dumb this down for a second. Let's just say Michael Jordan is in game 5 or 6 of the playoffs and they lose by 2. And he normally has a 90% free throw shot. Well, in that game, Phil Jackson could have left the game and been like, "Oh, I need to throw in this. I could have thrown in this sexy new play, or this or that." But the reality was, the stats, the KPIs said that Michael Jordan shot a 70% free throw in that game. So if he would have just shot his average free throw rate, they would have won the game. So instead of focusing on all these other things that don't matter, they go, okay, the KPI says something happened in his free throws and we would have won the game. So what do? We go watch the film next and we pull out the pieces in the film of when he was shooting the free throw. They will pause, play, give feedback. They might see that maybe his elbow went out or something. And then what are they going to do before the next game? They're going to say, Jordan, this is what happened. This is what we're going to go fix. You have 5 days till the next game. And every day you're going to shoot 500 free throws. They're not going to go do all these fancy other things or blame all these other things because this one thing would have won the game, right?
Right.
So then let's go relate that to acquisitions. If the scorecard says that your company lands 1 of every 2 offers, but then one of your closers for 2 weeks goes to 1 of 6, which we actually just had happen, right? The scorecard said, oh, this person went to 1 of 6. Now for us, that's 2 deals a week that we missed out on because of something happening. We didn't say, oh, that person sucks or the lead suck or the marketing sucks or whatever. The KPI said that in the sales process, her offer specifically went from 1 of 2 to 1 of 6. So we then went to the CRM. We pulled the calls from that didn't get accepted that she made an offer on. We did call audits on them, watched the film. We diagnosed that there was one specific objection out of the ones that didn't get accepted that went wrong. And so instead of blaming her or the market or the team or whatever, we knew that we had to overcome this one objection. So we created a daily training rhythm for her. We gave her new expectations to hit, etc. And next thing you know, within 2 weeks, she goes back down to 1 of 2. So to put that into perspective, our average deal size is $25,000. That was 50 grand a week if I wouldn't have known to fix the right problem, right? So we have to leverage these when bringing on people so that way we can create consistency without me being on the phone. And then the last step of the amplification formula is what we call exit leverage. So if you're only wholesaling, you're only flipping, or you're only holding, if I spend 10 grand and you spend 10 grand on marketing, but I can flip it, wholesale it, hold it, get creative, refer it to an agent, but you only wholesale or you only flip, I am more than likely going to make 4 to 8 times as much money on the same spend than you, because I have more tools in my tool belt. And so whatever makes the most money, if somebody wants to sell, it is our job to provide them a solution. And when we start thinking like this of how do we leverage people, how do we leverage exit strategies, how do we leverage other people's money, how do we leverage systems and KPIs, that's when we can build what we call a self-managing company. And that's when you stop wearing all the hats, right? You got into real estate to do what you want, when you want, with whoever the hell you want. And you can't do that without using leverage. And so that's what we call the amplification formula. And if you do it right, it'll give you what I call option freedom. So some people are like, I want financial freedom. I want time freedom. Option freedom means that I can do what I want, when I want, with whoever the hell I want, because I put in the systems and people to be able to make that happen. Does that make sense?
It all makes sense. I think this is amazing. It's broken down so well. And I think one of my favorites of the 4 is the watching film. because that applies to so many things. I remember even when I played violin back in the day, I remember my teacher back then said, when you perform, when you play, you should also record yourself or listen to yourself, because you can learn so much more about it from watching yourself and the way that you're moving the bow or performing than just doing it on your own. And so that was one. And then even speaking. I mean, one thing I should even do more is taking the videos that I have when I'm at speaking events is watch the tape, right? Same thing for investors with their deals, like doing deep dives. I mean, that's getting granular with the deals, but it's really the granular stuff that can make or break whether you're going to make the $25,000 deal or the $50,000 or the $100,000 deal. And I've heard of some teams that will do that, watch and go back and listen to the tape. But I think what's interesting about your specific example is how you had that one student have that same objection each time and working that through. And it's like, once you can overcome that, then the rest is cake, right? Now you're just trying to figure out other things to improve on. And having that daily sales training as well. I know there's teams out there that will meet with their team weekly. Like there's like 11 a.m. It's a weekly team meeting. But I love that every day you meet with them, because every day is really, it's in the battlefield of trying to get these deals, and you're trying to do these things every single day. So you really need to hone in on those skills. I love this whole process. I think this is great. I think a lot of people can learn from this. And I'm just curious, what was that one objection, Tiffany, that was happening over and over? Like, what was it?
I believe it was, let me think about it. Like, let me pray on it. Let me think about it. She was overcoming every other objection. That was the only one that she was having troubles overcoming. And so Josh put together, or our sales manager put together a sales training for just that objection for 5 days in a row. And if you think about it, guys, like Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, the best of all time, if they wouldn't have practiced 5 days in a row, like even the elite of the elite would have fallen off the process by game time a week later, right? So, like, and not only do they practice every day, they practice the fundamentals. I bet from age 4 till 50 for Jordan, he shot layups, free throws, and dribbled the ball with certain drills every single day for 30 years, right?
Yep.
And so that's how you build muscle memory. And it's no different than going to the gym. You don't get like ripped by like lifting once a week. You have to build muscle memory every single day, right? And so I think sometimes people make these excuses in their head, like, "Ah, I don't have time," or whatever. It's like, you can keep using that excuse and then keep waking up wondering why you're not consistent in your deal flow. Or we can go do the things that the people that are consistent and winning are doing, and that's putting in the infrastructure. It's a choice that people have to make.
Absolutely. It comes down to that choice. And I think people that want to do better and want to scale and want to improve themselves and their team will make these changes and will listen to your advice and your whole team on what you do with this, especially at Results Driven. I'm sure you and Josh do these boot camps and 2-day camps and talk about all of this, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, guys, I even and on Results Driven side, I train every week. I have a mentor that literally watches my film every week and breaks down my trainings and trains me on how to make a bigger impact. Right? Because if I get better at speaking and training, then I make a bigger impact, which is, my ultimate purpose. And so I invest a lot of money in coaches and mentors just for that. So it's no different than getting on a sales call and watching film so that we can continue to develop someone's skill sets and not be like, oh, you suck if you don't get the deal, right? And every time that they miss an opportunity for us, it's worth 25 grand. So I don't know what it's worth to everyone out there. Take your average profit per deal. And if you aren't watching film, I'm like 150% confident that you're missing out on at least one deal a month. Times that by 12, and that's how much it's worth to you to go figure that out.
I love it. For those that are interested, and you should definitely have a conversation with Tiffany is go check them out at Results Driven. We'll have the Chiron at the bottom of the screen. I know there's a lot of different investors, especially in the Jacksonville market and Florida market, that are a part of their program. And I love seeing her and Josh at Family Mastermind all the time, and hearing what's going on in their industry. So Tiffany, this is so great. I'm glad we were able to break this down. And I love seeing this from your perspective in your industry. And I got to ask, because I usually do 3 signature questions at the end of my show. What do you look for in new hires, whether it's for your acquisitions in your real estate or maybe your coaching team?
A few things are coachability. So in the interview process, we have a 4-step interview process. So on the 3rd interview specifically, we do a surprise working interview and we throw them on the phones and we have a whole process to it. And we want to make sure that they're coachable, because if you're not coachable, then our environment's not for them. Um, and guys, I cannot tell you this. If you're only doing one interview with someone and then it doesn't work out, it's because you're probably not vetting them well enough. Um, the skill set of communication. What I mean by that is I actually don't hire people that come from a ton of sales experience. My closers average 8 to 12 deals a month per closer. And like one of them was working at a construction shop, one was at an eyeglass shop. These guys, as long as they're coachable and can communicate effectively, my training and leadership can turn them into assassins. So I feel good about that. There's some programs out there that are like, you should hire someone with 6 figures of experience already. And it's like, well, then they come in and they're demanding and you churn. But if your training is so good, then you'll take someone from, say, a retail store who's making $15 an hour and be able to change the trajectory of their life. And that's when you build a loyal team, right? And so you've got coachability, skill set, core values. And we spend probably at least an hour minimum in the interview process. And we go through a whole core value exercise to really get to know someone. If you bring someone in, and if you're on here, if you're listening and you're like core values are fluffy or you don't have them, that's probably your biggest problem right now. They're the standard in which you operate by. So we have core values and we have what we call mantras for the organization. And if they don't fit within those, we don't hire them no matter how good they are. And so we go through a whole core value exercise. And on day 1 of employment, we spend an hour just going through that. And then we also have mantras, like every one of in our HH team, they have 1% better hats. They've got gear that say it's an internal thing. Our company's all about growth and being better, no blaming, complaining, or defending, leaving your crap at the door. Like, this is our culture. And if they don't like it, then we're just not for you. And that's okay. So I would just say, like, make sure that person really fits into your standards. Because if you, I see a lot of investors at our workshops where someone didn't work out, they had a bad hire. And I'm like, well, what standard did you tell them to operate by? I'm like, I don't know. Core values are fluffy. And it's like, okay, well, when you start at our company, I'll give you an example. One of our core values is teamwork. So in the interview, I'll say, hey, let me show you the version of good and bad. One time I had a closer who, got a deal in contract, gets sent to transaction coordinating, and transaction coordinating couldn't get the seller on the phone. So they go to the acquisition closer and said, hey, do you mind getting them on the phone? You obviously have a relationship with them. That guy at the time said, no, I need to focus on my calls. He was fired on the spot because that is not teamwork. And so we give those versions of like making sure that they understand what it means to us to have faith, commitment, integrity, teamwork, selfless service, etc. Because we want them to say no in the interview. Like, we don't want you to come into our environment if those aren't the standards you like to operate within.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not surprised if something happens in the workplace and we go to them and we say, hey, you just broke a core value, right?
Yeah.
But if you didn't have the core values up and you don't talk about them, they would be offended. But if you
Right.
did set that standard and you go to correct it, they'll be like, you're right. I'm sorry. Like, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah. And I love everything that you said and talked about, especially that part at the end. Kind of reminds me on when Steve Trang was on, and he was kind of talking about some of the things that he gets into with the new hires before he hires them as well. And it's like, it's setting that expectation up front. And so that's really setting the standard so they know what that looks like for what you want for your team, so it's not a surprise later. So it's awesome to hear that these are the things that are taking place up front, and we love that in our industry when we can have those conversations and be able to look for that. And one thing that I'd say, even for my team, that I even look for more than ever is competitiveness, because I have two assistants in my law firm that they get after it all the time, every single day, right? And so their nature is to always keep going and have that drive. And I love that, right? Because that means we're all going and growing and progressing. So everything you said, plus I mean, on my end, it's the competitiveness. So, there's so many different things to look for, but it's got to be what fits for you and your team and your core values and culture for sure. Tiffany, another thing is, how do you use the internet and social media in your business? Because you are really big with using the Facebook ads, the social media. I mean, every time I go on, all of a sudden there's Tiffany, there's Tiffany, there's Tiffany. So it's like you really know how to use and leverage it. So how are you doing it?
I am very intentional with social media. I do it for three reasons. One is to raise private money. I've probably raised over $30 million from strangers off of social media. I use it to recruit talent into our company. And then I obviously use it to educate. So, those three things, I don't just like get on social media for the hell of it, right? I have kids, I have a family. I'd rather be spending my time with them than to just post on social media for the hell of it. And so if a post is always revolving around one of those goals. And I just try to stay consistent. So it's not always about like how much you put out. It's just about being consistent and being authentic. With AI out there now, it's just like social media is becoming somewhat toxic. And so we've really got to separate ourselves, because it's a lot harder to like build trust, and you really build trust by just being you. But I would really reflect, especially if you're an investor that wants to raise private money. I always tell everyone, like, go to your social media and audit your last 30 days and tell me if someone with $10 million would lend you when they follow you. Because if they won't, then you should probably rethink what you're posting on social media.
Yeah. And it's very important to have that authentic message more than ever, right? And you don't have to do anything flashy either. You just really have to be you and your natural self and be able to talk about what you're doing in your industry and providing value back. And whether it's on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook, I mean, there's so many different platforms, but it's all about the content that you're posting and putting out there. Just be true to yourself, and then people will follow and listen, and you'll grow a community from there, just like you have at Results Driven. You've grown that community with you and Josh. So it's amazing to see that at its finest. Last one, Tiffany, favorite book, and any book out there, whether it's real estate, business, mindset. What's your number one book that you love?
The Bible. Yep. I try to live out as much as I can according to that book. Outside of that, I would say, I've actually been talking to a lot of teenage groups, and I wish that when I was that age, or if someone has kids, they would have had me read books on influence and sales. So like how to make friends and influence, or the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John C. Maxwell. We live by those. Never Split the Difference. Like, these are all great books, no matter what field you're in, because they're going to add to your skill sets that help you grow.
Amazing. And again, the books out there they're very helpful for people. And I think what you're doing in your industry and you coming on the show is super valuable. So I have to say thank you so much for coming on the Al Nicoletti Show. Love it. Love seeing what you're doing. And can't wait to see it Family Mastermind again and keep crushing it out there. So Tiffany, final words, final thoughts for anything for people out there that can really take home your world and what you do.
I would just say, remember you're worth it, because, you got into this business for a reason, and do the things that it takes to get the result you're looking for, because you're worthy of it.
I love it. We'll leave it right there. Tiffany, hi. Thank you so much for coming on the Al Nicoletti Show. And it's been a blast. Thank you so much. And I'll be seeing you very soon.
All right. Thanks for having me on.
Take care, Tiffany. All right, everybody, you heard it here from Tiffany High herself. This is another jam-packed episode. Lots of golden nuggets and value for people that really want to do better in their game or build a better team. The biggest takeaway was her amplification formula, just really breaking down the things that you should focus on. If you missed any of this episode, go back, rewind, check it out, find the best tidbits, and you can find more episodes like this of the Al Nicoletti Show. Scan the QR code. You'll find the link tree. Everything's there from YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and we're rolling for the rest of the season. Part 2 after summer. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one. Have a great night, everybody. Take care.